Welcome to the live stream of the Dorchester School District 2 Board of Trustees Board Meeting. These meetings are held on the second and fourth Monday of each month and always provide useful information regarding the operation of our district and schools. These meetings are recorded and posted at dd2.org/live. Before the meeting begins, please note these important announcements. 4K kindergarten and first grade online registration will be April 20th through 22nd. Please visit dd2.org/2021 for detailed information regarding documents that will be needed for upload during the registration process. The new student registration form is also available in Spanish. For additional information, please contact us at 843-695-2989. Please note these important April dates. Thank you for joining us this evening, and make sure to follow us on the Dorchester District 2 Facebook page at Team DD2.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our meeting and call this meeting to order. To begin the meeting, I need an approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next, again, I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting, and just if we could just take a moment to just reflect on what we've dealt with in the past and where we're going, and just to sit down and just think about what's going on and how we've advanced and where we still have yet to go, and thank everyone for their patience. Thank you very much. Now, if you would stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on the agenda is our public comments on agenda items, and we have none, so we'll move to the approval of the minutes. Board members, in your packets, you should have received the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of March 22nd. I need a motion to approve those.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Robinson.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next, we have our school highlights. Ms. Rayner.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, members of the board, Mr. Pye. It's our pleasure this evening to recognize one of our schools for the very hard work that they have been putting forth for the past more than a year as they've applied for the ABC Curriculum School Project. So at this time, I would like to introduce our Fine Arts Director, Jason Walsh, to tell you a little bit about this.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Pye, members of the board. So the Arts in a Basic Curriculum Project provides leadership within the state of South Carolina in cooperation with the South Carolina Arts Commission to provide standards-based support for students through grants and other opportunities in the district. They have a commitment to implementing curricula to make arts an integral part of the basic curriculum and daily classroom instruction. It currently serves 43,994 students in South Carolina, but there's only 74 schools that are represented by this certification in the state of South Carolina. This year, in the past, it's been a year-to-year application where you apply for a grant and they see whether you get that grant or don't get that grant. This year, they made it a multi-year certification process, which was very extensive. One of my first things was to sit in on a meeting to learn all about this, and their committee worked very hard and had to outline, they had to have a strategic plan, they had to explain piece by piece how it's affected their school, how they plan to implement it, and how they plan to move forward. And so they were successful, and to be this first inaugural class to receive this certification, and then we'll hold that certification for the next 3 years. Windsor Hill has actually been an ABC school since 2009, which is an extremely great accomplishment. This certification provides them with resources, networking opportunities, professional development, funding. And one of the biggest things is that they will be able to serve as a model because of this certification to other schools within South Carolina. They can come visit to learn how they are creating arts integration in their schools. So it's a great honor, and representing them tonight, they have their principal, Robert Nooner, their assistant principal, Jennifer Bates, Miss Diane Brown, and their dance teacher, Miss Meredith Crawford. So I'm going to invite them up, and please help me in congratulating them on this great honor.
Well, next week is a special week in Dorchester District 2. It always has been since many of us started out as a volunteer when our children were attending schools. It is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, April 18th through the 24th. This has been a challenging year. We had scheduled our annual Volunteer Appreciation Breakfast on Thursday, which we, of course, have had to cancel. But we reached out to our schools because we know they've been challenged with the inability to bring the public and parents into their schools to work. But we've been amazed at the creative ways that our schools have engaged their parents and their business partners in supporting the schools that still kept the mitigation protocols in place. So I'm going to invite, I thought who better to speak to that very briefly. The spirit of volunteerism is alive and well in Dorchester District 2. I know we're used to every year recognizing between 5,000 and 6,000 volunteers who contribute more than $7 to $8 million in kind funding for their services, but they are still making a difference. So next week, and we may not be able to give them bacon and eggs, but we are going to be, the Public Information Office will be, we've made some treats with a little message to the volunteers and to parents that we'll be delivering to all of our schools next week for them to distribute to those folks that have been so supportive of them and their work in this highly unusual year. So, Ms. Mall, if you would come up, please.
Good evening. I'm Sierra Mail, District 23 PTA President. While being appreciated is awesome and feels really good, it's not the reason why we serve our schools. The reason to serve is because you can actually make a difference. There are few things more important than a child's education, and if you're looking to make an impact, then consider getting involved. It can be as simple as offering to prep classwork for your teacher, or as committed as serving on a PTA board. Whether you are working or a stay-at-home parent or even a grandparent, there truly is something for everyone. Being a part of PTA, I've worked alongside people of all different backgrounds. I've been inspired by so many and cherish all of the relationships that I've formed. Hosting a successful event with an extraordinary team of people is incredibly rewarding. But more so is seeing the excitement on the students' faces, or knowing that you have done something that has helped not only your children, but all the children at your school. Now more than ever, it's important for you to reach out and find out how you can help. Normally, schools and PTAs recruit volunteers at fun little events that we all put together. But without that opportunity to build those relationships and strengthen our village this year, we need those of you who are watching to reach out to your school's PTA or front office and find out how you can plan for next year, or find out if there's even opportunities this year. To all of the current volunteers, thank you so much for stepping up and facing the challenges of this year. Having to go all virtual with everything from meetings to voting and even our reflections program has had a huge learning curve. You all have been amazing, and I am so proud to be a part of District 23 PTA. Also, thank you DD2 and Mr. Pye for valuing and always supporting the PTA. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sierra. We're looking forward to a banner year next year when we're all back to normal, right? And lastly, it's our pleasure on behalf of the South Carolina School Boards Association to recognize and present a certificate of achievement to board member Ashley Wimberly for her completion of the new board orientation in March. We're extremely proud of you because we have been blessed in our school district with well-informed and networked board members to make the best decisions for our district. So congratulations, Ms. Wimberly. Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Ms. Rayner. Next on our list is our superintendent's report, State of the District. Mr. Pye.
Let's see how this goes. All right, coming back from spring break, we really have our eye now on trying to finish up these last 2.5 months of school, and that's an ordeal as we plan for next year. So you're closing out and planning at the same time with an exciting learning-filled summer in the middle. So there's no downtime at all. We're moving up the mountain, around the mountain, and to the next mountain, and no time to catch our breath, and we're really pushing people to be innovative, creative, and we're down to the point of begging for help to make sure that we can serve as many students and have an impact on learning like never before as we try to close any gaps that may exist out there, and they do exist. And they're kind of spread out in different forms, and with the cut back on the state assessment from last year, not having that, we don't have as much data as we would like to have to make concrete decisions. And the state has pretty well waived us having to do that, so that's been fine. But as you well know, assessments are back in. The spring assessments from the State Department of Education, because the federal Department of Education turned down our waiver request. So we will be giving assessments the end of the year. And of course, it's going to be hard to tell whatever it tells us. We know it's going to show gaps. It has to. But there's nothing to compare it to because we didn't get to do it last year. So you're going back 2 years, that's not going to be very research-based and anything that could be very authentic in what we do. Plus the federal government has added the piece that it's optional for parents for their child to participate. And of course, if you don't have those records there, how do you know what they've done or not done? So, and different parents have their reasons why they may wish to do it or not do it. So it's going to be an interesting year as we hold teachers accountable for things that are out of their control, and it's going to be hard for us to know where to pinpoint what we can do to close those gaps because we just plain miss school, and you can't build in time that you don't have. And the day has always been too short for us to do all the things we would like to do. And it's become extremely short now as we find ourselves trying to catch up in so many ways. So that brings us to the summer programs that we mentioned last board meeting, and there are plenty. And every day we keep looking at other ways to serve children. We're making sure that some of our schools don't use money as an excuse. That's what those federal dollars were given to us for. It's the top priority is to use it for academic programs and ways to catch children up by having tutorial sessions, summer programs, summer camps, small groups with extra teachers providing that instruction. And so we are doing everything we can to make that an attractive offer for teachers to want to do, and at the same time to make sure there's something for every child that has a need, and we can fill it if they're willing to come. We're providing transportation, food, I mean, you name it. We're doing all the things that in the past we necessarily did not do for all children, but now we're doing it for all of them. So our teachers and principals are busy planning that. They're all working on their schedules, and it's hard to work on a schedule when we've had, 3 or 4 different schedules this year. I'm not sure which one. I'd like to think the one we're doing now is the best one we've had. So we'll build off of this schedule. But our numbers, we lost 1,000 children, mostly at the elementary level. So what do? Do you plan to have teachers in the class for the 1,000 to return? Stay the course and don't bring any teachers in? And the 1,000 show up? How many will be in a classroom? What happens if we don't get all the teachers' positions filled? You can't be short. Again, the COVID money was intended to be used for what they see as an emergency brought on by COVID that's put us in a situation where there's a teacher shortage, but we have got to be prepared. This is our chance to make sure we serve children in every way possible. And now's the best pickings there are for teachers, and we're going all out. Our personnel department has to be saluted, even though most people were vacationing last week or taking some time off, not them. They were busy at work, hiring dozens of teachers. Dozens were filled positions. And even I'm in the recruiting war. I'll be at a restaurant. Somebody knows me from somewhere. They come up and say, my niece is thinking of, is talking to another district, is coming to here and all. I wish she would have come to Dorchester too. I said, well, why didn't she? Well, she didn't really know about it. Where is she going to college? So-and-so, so-and-so. We know people at that college. There's students there. She's not a graduate from our high school, but we have many graduates at that school. And so they connected with some of those graduates while the young lady was in town. She was told, if you're going to teach anywhere in South Carolina, Somerville, South Carolina is the place to be, or you're not doing the right thing. So I got a call that I'm willing to change my mind, decommit, and come to Dorchester too, and in a position that needed to be filled. And I bet they think Somerville High got that teacher. And so we were just thrilled. So that's like the third one I found. So, but I'm slack, because normally I'm up to about 15 at this time. But I'm going to have to get out and do a better job. But every restaurant suspect, every waitress might be a teacher working a second job. So we got to be on the lookout for that. And if they speak with a foreign accent, I'm quickly asking, are you French, Spanish, Hispanic? By any chance are you certified? We've got 6 positions, and I could really use you. And I'll give you a tour personally if that's what you'd like. So a lot of that's going on in all of our principals and our teachers. It's the word of mouth that gets us here. We're not, when people go on the internet to look for school systems in the South, they're looking for Charleston, South Carolina. They want the beaches. They want the history. They want what Charleston offers, and that's everything. That's a magnificent city. However, when you come to education, it doesn't get any better right outside in the neighborhood community, bedroom community. So we have to go out and sell ourselves through word of mouth. So it's our former students, it's our parents and folks who have enjoyed the riches of our school district and former employees that are promoting us every day. And that's why we seem to be able to fill our positions every year, and we get people we don't know how they got here to us from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Oklahoma, Alaska, Hawaii, you name it. They come from all over the world. And so, and we've had some of our teachers that we work with, some groups, agencies, with foreign teachers that are working with us. And we're already filling some of those positions. We're getting some magnificent candidates. So we're feeling real good about that. But again, it's early. Contract time has not gone out. So some of our people may opt to stay home. Not just for COVID, for other reasons that they normally do, have a child or an elderly parent take care of, many other reasons. They're relocating to get married, or they're going back home to where they came from, they miss home, all those reasons that we deal with every year that makes us a little more transient than we would like to be. But again, we're filling those positions by word of mouth because of the great things that happen here. The Virtual Academy, we spent 3 or 4 hours just on that topic this morning, my cabinet and I, and we thought this was the day to make all the final decisions. No, we're not able to make those final decisions. We have so many loopholes to put in place. We have 964 students who have signed up or registered, 932 in grades 4 through 12 who've been approved. Now, we had 16, 17, 1,800 students to apply, but they have to go through some certain criteria to go. We had a lot of struggling students that were in the program last year that had no business being there. They were there for, I'm sure, health reasons, but again, they needed the structure of the classroom, they needed the warmth and the environment of a teacher, loving and caring teacher that promoted them, encouraged them. They needed their classmates to help to embrace them. They needed that social piece that they couldn't get outside the schoolhouse. And as limited as we are now with that, it's still better than what they were getting. So right now, I'm not hearing a whole lot, so obviously parents are accepting that this is still the best place for their children to be, to get an education. If, however, if they're insistent and they really want to do this, we are working with our neighbors and some of our business partners like Edmentum and those folks, and as well as South Carolina Virtual, and working with the consortium, the Low Country Consortium, and to buy seats and place kids that if we don't have, we have a third grader that needs to be in virtual and we don't have that spot, we are trying to work a place out that we can sponsor them in another spot. So we're still serving the needs of children. It's just we physically can't meet all kids' needs. We couldn't do all the courses in high school we wanted to do either. We had to cut a lot of those out, and with that were a large number of kids that probably would be that would want to take those particular courses. So in order to get the full plate of selections, they're being offered in brick and mortar, the schools themselves. And so that number has really picked back up, and we're hoping that we're going to gain back most of the kids that left. 700 of those are homeschooled. They didn't go to private schools and charter schools. 750, almost 800 of them, that turned out to be about 950 of that group are homeschooled. So that's the market we're really targeting, and I have to feel that it was very much COVID related, as they were very frightful for their kids to be out of their sight. But every parent couldn't be home. They could provide tutorial services. They're not teachers, and I think a lot of them had enough of it, and they're ready to let us do that work that we're so good at, we're trained at, and we have a passion to do. So I think we're going to see a wonderful year. We're planning for a normal, wonderful year. Now again, we've had a lot of our dreams dashed, but we keep coming out with a cat with 99 lives, not 9. And I'm probably on number 97, but I'm still out there. I've got 2 more tries, and I'm going to make the best we can. But we're kicking it up to have a wonderful opening of school and having all our positions filled with quality teachers. We know what the state said. I guess if we run out at the very end, we'll look at somebody that's non-certified. But right now, we want quality in our system. We're not willing to compromise at this point in time. We feel we're in the driver's seat. So Virtual Academy is going to still take another week or 2 of heavy work trying to get all the children placed in the courses they want to be in, talking to the parents with the guidance counselors. A lot of that's already happened, but we still have some we need to follow up on to make sure the IGPs are being followed. We've got to have a plan. We just don't want to, like we did last fall, push something in to try to fill a hole. We want to put it as a stairway to heaven. We want to make it wonderful for these kids, and if that's their choice, we want to make sure they feel comfortable, they're headed, and they're to the right place with the right goals in mind. Now, year end also brings on all these typical events. We're flooded daily by, can the church have services in a public school setting, that if that's what they did, our thing allows that for 1 year. It could be the Boy Scouts wanting to use a facility. It's all these little football teams and things that want to use our playgrounds and all. And of course, our rules are what they are for our students. And you can't very well have a different set of rules for the public and not for your own students, since this is their playground, this is their home, and they should have first dibs on whatever we do. So that's presented quite a problem, because we've been asked by every group everywhere to lease out, I guess you'd say, or to utilize our property in some way, shape, or form. And we try to be fair and open-minded as long as they can meet the criteria, but we're having to put everything on hold until we decide on our own school people. When can we start bringing back awards programs, Teacher of the Year, our support staff recognition, you name it. We just have all kinds of things. All the elementary schools have their award programs at the end of school, and it's so important that one day, that one night for their parent to see what they accomplished that year. So we don't want to take that from them. Then we get to the biggies, the prom, graduation. And that's a very social thing. And if these children have suffered in any way, shape, or form, it's been in social and emotional. And a lot of that could be in their home lives. A lot of that was just the pandemic itself. I can't control that. But the little bit we can control is right here in schools. How do we handle those events? We have not, I want everyone to listen to me, we have not said no to anybody at any time. No one's told anybody there's no prom. No one said that here. People are making that up. But neither have we said yes, and this is the date, this is the time, and this is the amount you're going to pay. We've not done that because we're very concerned about the health conditions that we're seeing that's being predicted. This spring break is supposed to bring on something new. We're going to watch it just like we did with the last one, and I think we'll ride this out and probably be fine. The governor and the president of the United States have all said by July 4th we will be normal again. I'm not sure I agree with them, but I do believe we're headed to a much normal state, and I do think the summer is going to be a lot different than last summer. That's why I'm so positive about next August, thinking we really can be with all these vaccinations. So now with our young people being able to get vaccinated, all of our seniors are eligible, that I would think that that would go a long way in helping us to feel that we're not a spreader. If I could feel that we weren't spreading something, and that's the venues are too small with a large number of kids, and they know no social distancing at a prom. I've been to some, I mean, everybody is just, they can't talk to each other unless they're touching faces. I mean, y'all, that's just the way it is. Grabbing, touching, arms around each other. I've never seen anything like that. Everybody's friends. That's a wonderful night for them to celebrate. We do not wish to take that from them. They did not have one last year. That means the seniors as juniors did not have the opportunity, and as seniors they will not again. I have a problem with that, a personal problem. And so, but I also have the problem with I don't want to be irresponsible and create something. Then once we say we have the prom, then how can I say we're not going to have the awards ceremony? How am I going to say we're not going to have this or that? We have to be very careful and methodical. And I think the calendar is the best bet for us. The later in the year that we have something, the better it's going to be. So we're thinking about when the state testing is over with and all in May, the end of May, that we have the week or two, that 2 weeks that's left in June would be a great window of time to plan these events ahead of time, that we have plenty of notice and they're done. Trust me, any event that we've ever had that we think is wonderful, we've already got a plan. We've had a plan. We don't leave our children alone. But we have to have a plan that we can get out of if we have to. And I'm not going to pay $25,000 and have to give it away to somebody for charity. We're not into that here. We don't have that kind of money. So we want to make sure, and we can't take money from kids and not be able to refund it. I mean, you're paying for something you don't get to enjoy. You can't ask people to do that. So there are a lot of things around our reasoning of that. And probably if there's been a misguiding in that, and I've asked my principals, I know personally if I were principal of a high school, my relationship with my kids would be most important to me. I would meet with my leaders in my senior class. I'd get their ideas on how can we pull this off. What would students be willing to do if we can have this? Let's talk about compromising. Let's put the best thing in. Then I would throw out some of my wonderful ideas. End of the day, we would be having the best event known in South Carolina. But you've got to work as a team. And right now, this is not maybe top priority to adults, but it is to our senior class. It's their last big hurrah. So we are asking them to work with their leadership to let them know where we are, that we are planning it. We just aren't in a position to announce it until we feel absolutely sure that we're offering the best venue we can under the circumstances. And so, but expect them to be 6 feet apart, expect them to be 3 feet apart, expect them to have plexiglass, expect them to wear masks. You can throw all that to the wind. So, and I don't want to be responsible, but those are the things that, but I think that they're reasonable if they really could feel our pain of how torn we are and that we do care. But I want everyone out there to know that when we talk about these events in the end of the year, the glass is half full. It's not half empty. We're not looking for negativity. We're looking for how can we ride out this? We've made some, I don't say gambles. We don't want to gamble with anything like this with children's health and teachers' health. But this is an optional thing that doesn't have to occur. There's no law that we're breaking. There's no mandate. It's just a social thing that comes once in a life for a student. And I'd hate that the same student missed it twice. They won't have a chance. I just don't like that. So, but I can't help the conditions that I've been given. But we're working as a team. All the adults have been put on notice. If we don't have, and I'm going to say this, Joe, and I probably should not, if we're going to have an indoor celebration, graduation, we're going to have a prom. So simple as that. If I'm not going to have one, I'm not having the other. Not if they're going to be within 2 weeks of each other. A week. So there ought to be something we can sell both things. And we've already rented the Coliseum. And so we have that. We can get out of that and go back to the stadium if we need to do it. But we're planning to have our graduations at the Coliseum. And that is done. And our neighboring districts are now following suit with us. They were all going to stadiums, and now some of them, I noticed, various schools are now signing up for the Coliseum. And so, obviously, that's another. We're monitoring all of our neighbors. And I know we've had parents come speak to us about, why don't we do like Berkeley and Charleston does? How pitiful it was we don't follow our neighbors. Well, one of those districts has already said no to the prom. There will be no prom. Now, that's subject always to change. But they've already announced this back in January, February, no prom. The other district, one other district announced it's going to be in their football stadium. The other district says maybe we're thinking about it. We probably are in that maybe category, but we're further along than maybe. Like I said, we've already got an event planned, and an event planned. But can we pull it off? And what kind of cooperation? So I'm now going to have to lean on the teachers, the senior teachers, and the students in the high schools to help me assure the safest possible situation. And I think I'll be fine with that. So you know, folks, that we're going to do that. You know these award ceremonies are going to happen. So we're still working on how is that going to be. You know, we'll be streaming it. Well, we just cannot let children not be celebrated. Very important. If they, you know, have perfect attendance, very few kids can pull that off, especially with all that we've been through. They need to be recognized over and over again. We need to encourage our students who have risen to our academic high challenges in an awful environment. They've overcome that. So it inspires other kids to want to do well. So we want to model the good things about school, the fun things that all of us remember about school. I don't remember anything about algebra except I hated it. But I do, and I did like the teacher. I remember her. But I remember all the social things at school. Every ball game I went to, I remember all those things that were very important to me. I'd go sick, but I was going to be there. If they had a game, I was going to be sitting right on the front row. And that was just known to everybody that's what's going to happen. So with that in mind, we are looking at all the options we can for all the activities that we normally have. We've ruled nothing out at this time. Nothing. We're not quite ready to announce any one thing because we know it's a chain reaction. We got to be ready to announce everything. So we're putting together an entire calendar with everything anybody can come to. We're putting it down. So when we release it, we're releasing everything. It won't be a matter of pick and choose, so you can all fuss together. This is what it is. And of course, we're open to suggestions if somebody can come up with something any better. But we're still working with the mandates of South Carolina, like with face masks. That's a mandate from our state superintendent and our governor. We will be wearing face masks until they have to change it. That's mandated in South Carolina in our schools. I've called around, and our private schools are doing the same thing. So that's a rumor when you hear private schools aren't doing it. They don't have to do it. They only have 15 kids. They certainly don't need to use plexiglass. But they're using the mask. And so I wanted to make sure people understand that when we look at safety protocols, we're doing what's best for our kids, but we're listening to medical experts, and we understand the battle between what's safe and not safe. But plexiglass, when you're down to 3 feet and less, I say more is better than nothing. I just believe in that. When the temperature is dropping down to 20 degrees at night, you're going to a ball game, you're going to wear a coat and a sweater, or you're just going to wear the sweater, or you're just going to wear the coat. You wear both of them and take 2 more with you. Because trust me, it gets cold quick. And it's the same, you have to be prepared for the worst scenario and then move from there. But we're going to continue to work as Team Dorchester. We get a lot of input from all of our team members, all of our staff members, and we continue to make and will make, as we started this process back last summer. Health and safety are the number one goals of our school district, the number one priority. And we've tried to stick to it. We've been accused of varying from it, but never have we really done so. Everything's had an eye on timing, that it's bet under these conditions we can do this. And we've been very methodical about that and not haphazard, and I'm very proud of what we've done up to this point. And I'm not ready to throw the towel in because there's some pressure there. I think it's going to work itself out, and not the way we all would like for it to, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to be better for it, but we would have had some research backing us of why we did what we did. And it's about safety for our children. We don't put anybody in danger. And because of that, that's why we have students face-to-face 5 days a week. And what good is face-to-face from 5 days a week when half of them are quarantined and there's no teacher in the room to teach them? So see, all that part of it, we have to keep it healthy and safe if we're going to offer what we say we need to offer. So they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So any questions, board members? I hope I told you enough about that. But we're really excited about it. Like I said, 3 hours on it, on virtual this morning, and the other 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, 3 hours on this, school activities.
Mr. Pye, I had one question. You were talking about you were going to stick with the schedules. Will we be sticking with the times?
But next year, we'll probably go back to the regular times. That's not been made official, but our teachers have complained for years that the day is not long enough for them. And of course, we make it long, we'll probably hear the opposite. But we lost, a half hour in that because the buses had to be cleaned between each bus route. We won't have to do that hopefully next year. So if that looks bad, we'll be back to our regular schedules we've always had. To try to build back that time. That gains us 30 minutes a day for the rest of the year, so for next year.
Could I just ask, if we do graduation in the Coliseum, which sounds like that's the direction, will we do it all 3 schools the same day? Is that your plan?
Same
still?
day. Isn't that what we decided? We looked at all kind of, trust me, we've had every option. No, you wouldn't believe what we've been through, but yes, it's all 3 the same day. We got the time changed back like it used to be, did we not?
The times are Ashley Ridge is at 9:30, Somerville is at 1:30, Fort Dorchester is at 5. So they all moved up a little bit early.
Mr. Pye, I just had one quick question. Is there any way, I know all of us board members have been getting emails, just as you guys have in the district office and along with phone calls about the prom situation. Is there any way that we can let the parents, the students, whatever, know that this is in fact what we're doing, that it has not been canceled?
We
that
have
we
never
are
said
planning
no.
it?
Plans are underway. We actually have a plan in place, so it's not like we were thinking about it. We have a workable plan. The timing is not quite right, but they need to know that, and that's why I really want our high school principals to start with their faculties and their students. They're the people that need to really know, and they will tell the parents. But then the community, when we send out to the community and advertise it, they need to know that too, but I don't want them to hear something we've not even told our students. I really feel it's sad when the high school president sends the letter not understanding what we're doing. I don't like that.
Well, and like I said, I just think,
There's no reason
you know,
for that.
we've got a lot of people that listen to our live streaming, but for those who don't, I just want to make sure that this information gets out to them as well.
I agree. This is a way, but how do we know there's only 100 people watching, and do they feel the need to go tell 2,000 other people this? This is good news, and sometimes good news doesn't travel like bad news. And right now, the rumor is we're not having these things, but that's so far from the truth. But again, it's about communication. We can't give a final announcement, but we can certainly say, this is our plan. And it's subject to change. If the health conditions suddenly go around bad, we will not be in the Coliseum. We'll go back to the stadium and at least be outdoors. So we know we have that plan covered. That one, we got two choices. We're going for the good one, but if the last minute it's not right, we'll flip to the other and we'll stream we're going to stream both of them anyways. We've found that to be so successful.
Mr. Pye, on that same point, I think you and I had a discussion about the prom, that if we decide that the graduation has to be done outdoors, then there's a possibility that we could also do the prom. That wouldn't throw the prom out the window. We could also do the prom outdoors
I'm glad you're
with some
saying that
tents and
because
that
my
kind of
team
thing.
thinks I'm crazy. I know they do.
I think it's a great idea because I
offered
think they
to-
deserve this
I had the
opportunity.
tents lined up. We were going to do tents all over all the football fields. And if I had to do it over 3 nights, I was going to have a prom that they could be 6 feet apart. I was going to make sure it was going to happen. I wouldn't be present, of course, because I don't want to see that it didn't work. But the bottom line is, it'd be radical, but you'd be having it. And it wouldn't be considered ideal. Colleton County is doing just that now. They have one high school, and it's so much smaller than ours, and their field is just the same size, but they've got a class that's, 300 maybe? And we got Somerville High's class, 600, so that's the difference, 700.
Right.
But yes, that's out there too.
And
That's why we have it announced.
And one more question. Do we know, or do we have an approximate date, just so that people can begin to plan?
It will
Because I
not
think that's
occur
what
until
they're-
June.
Okay, so
There'll be no
yeah, I think
proms
that's
until
important
after
to get
June
that
1.
information out.
We can get that out.
Okay. That's all
I would
have.
like principals, I know again, this is early and we can't do this, but back when I was in high school, I was on the planning team. Of course, we had it in the gym. How much planning could you do? But it was, that maybe we have, like I said, some input so they see the challenges we have and they understand what can't be done. And they, surprisingly, they could talk their fellow students into participating and wearing the mask if that's what we decide we need to do. We're going to go outside, have it in the stadium. Folks, this is going to be wonderful. We're going to set up different tents for different centers where you go to, whatever you're going to do, and multiple DJs perhaps, so we don't have large groups all centered in one group. But it needs to be something talked about, like we do a PLC, and everybody weighs in, they understand, they all get excited together, and we can talk about it. We can say we have the 7th, June, I'm just making it these days, I have no idea what day of the week it is, but June 7th and we have June 14th. What would you prefer? They might all say, you know what, if we did get there and we were such a spreader, we will all have that stuff, and we'll be quarantined and we can't go to graduation. So, Mr. Pye, what's the latest we can have it? You might even have a senior class to come and tell you, as much as we don't have control, but what is the possibility of having it after graduation, and they're not affecting what we do here? It's a social event, either come or don't come, and you're coming closer to that window. The governor and the president feels more people will be vaccinated, and the disease spread will be at an all-time low, perhaps, as low as it has been in a long time, that it would be considered safe and might be the real popular thing to do. So that's a possibility, but would students weigh in on that? What would they think about that? School's over, I'm not ever setting foot back there again when I graduate. No, this is so important to me that we understand that we don't want our graduation to be ruined because we can't attend because we went and this thing was spread at a prom where students were so closely connected. So again, I tell you, every time I talk to those seniors at these high schools, they're fabulous, y'all. And I hate to say this, I'll take the seniors over the adults any day of the week. They're so good, they're so honest, they're kind, and they're very analytical. They just really think through this, and it's like we don't give them credit. We've got some sharp kids out there, and they're leaders, and I'd like to lean on them and say, this is for you. What can you do to help me make this happen? And that's kind of the approach I'm taking, and like I said, we've got a lot of stuff already ironed out that kids couldn't possibly do, but we could tell them, here's things we're looking at. What's your feeling? Oh, we won't ever want to do that. That's the consensus, then throw that out the window, and let's go ahead and start planning towards the one we feel that would best work. And under what conditions, such as if we can have it here, we all think we should wear masks. We think our temperature should be checked at the door. If we're running a fever, we should not be allowed in the room. That's not fair to the other students. If students said that, and that was part of their rules, how easy would it be to sell than a bunch of adults who hadn't been in a prom in 40 years making up these rules because we're being very conservative? You know how it is. All you that are parents, you understand what I mean by that. Parents don't know anything. The kids know it all.
Mr. Pye, I think that's a great idea, because I think in this situation, as in almost every situation we deal with, I think communication is a key. And I think we have been lacking for whatever reason in that field of communicating these things to them. I know we were trying to work it out, and we've been working behind the scenes, but I think it's just as important to make sure that they know that we are working behind the scenes, and we still have it in the plans, that it's definitely not off the plan. So I think it's a great idea to get them involved. But does anybody else have any other comments or concerns that they'd like to speak to Mr. Pye about?
Remember, you want to comment? I just was wondering what you thought about that, as I know you were as concerned from one of the emails we received as I was, and I was really taken back, and it upset me.
I have been, but I think you did a great job addressing it, and I appreciate the fact that we are doing everything within our power to make it happen for our students. I think it is a priority for them. I agree with you. It breaks my heart to the disappointments that they've had, even though it's no one's fault, but I appreciate that we are making every effort, and I love the idea of having students involved. Like you said, we've heard from students. They have been very outspoken in a respectful way when they've reached out to us.
But wrong information because they don't know
Right.
what's been done.
And so, I think it would be wonderful to have their input. And I agree, that would probably give them a lot of buy-in to what we're doing.
And granted, it might be only one thing, but if we can make it their idea or just garner any support from them, it would help make it more doable.
I think that sounds great. Thank
No
you.
matter how pathetic it may look to them, at the end of the day, we are having a prom, and we understand why we have to do this, and this is the trade-off. For us to get this, we need to do this, and this is what will happen. But I want it to get away from it being a district decision. Y'all don't want me making these decisions, because I'm very child-oriented, and I'm going to side with them just about every time. And my staff knows that. At the end of the day, it's what they want. If I had a meeting and they tell me they want their high school painted yellow tomorrow morning, I will argue with them. We'll be bringing the painters over the next day, painting the building. It's just, that's the way it is. This is their program. This is their life. This is about them. But as adults, we have to be responsible and set the tone, put the parameters, but let them learn to think. Let them problem solve. Let them help us take a bad situation I don't know the answer for. I've never done a pandemic before. I haven't done a prom, and we don't even want to talk about that, how long ago that was, but it exceeds 50 years, and maybe 55. But it's been a long time, and so I don't pretend to know how kids react and what they expect from their proms and all, and so the sock hops we had in the gym when I did it, I'm sure it's not popular now. I think they expect a lot more, so I'd like to know what those things are, and like I said, my team has just rolled their eyes with me and my stuff. I had us all at the beach on the seashore, all out in the wind blowing, and we don't need no masks. And I had all this, and they're going, Mr. Pye, are you going to put kids around water? I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking about fresh air and the germs. And so I try to be creative, but I'm like, well, let's find a mountain then. Can we get on a mountain? Do you think they jump off the mountain? We could be on a high place. But I am excited about that, and I appreciate the comments that you made. And I do think we didn't have a whole lot we could tell them other than I think the principals have been reminding their students there's been a no. Nobody said no. But somebody somewhere, and I think And I'll be honest with you, I think it's been one high school that I've heard from. I've not heard from all three. So obviously,
too.
that communication was better said somewhere, or somebody who started this rumor was at that high school and not the other two. So with all that said, I will short back up and get this information out, because all three schools are doing basically the same thing. None of them will have it the same night, I don't think. One of our plans did say maybe two the same night, but I'm not sure if that stayed with that or not. But even the places we're having it lining up, maybe two might have it at the same place at different weekends, and another place would be used for the third high school. So we're trying to have different options best we can. But now that we've narrowed it down fairly well and we're just looking for health conditions, then let's get excited about planning something and have the backup, such as the stadium. And I know nobody wants to hear me talk about that, but if Colleton's going to have it in the stadium, doggone it, I'm having it in the stadium. So it's as simple as that. They have a bigger group. We may have to do it 3 nights, and that was another thing. I said we have A through F and G through M, N through Z. And we'll have 3 nights. If you're one of those, and seniors only, that's the night you come, and we're going to be able to control the crowd. But that would be a real high school prom, because your class would be divided up. So, all right, that's enough. I wore that out. But we're all our stuff we're looking at seriously. So just go away with that. There's been a no to nothing. That doesn't mean it can't still be some no's. But we're trying to do everything together because I want to be fair. I'm concerned about our seniors, probably very important that I be concerned about them. But I'm concerned about that little first grader, third grader, fifth grader, that little struggling student who has done well on something and they're not going to be recognized. Happen. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pye. Next on our agenda, board members, is our personnel report. You should have received in your packets the resignations and recommendations for the 2021 school year and the recommendations for the 21-22 school year. I need a motion to approve those, if everybody's okay with doing it.
Madam Chair, if we can split those out, the recommendations for 21-22, I need to take out Flowertown.
Okay. All right. So I need a motion then for the resignations and recommendations for the 2021 school year. Ms. Crosby made the motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Ms. Crosby? 7-0. Okay, the next then, I need a recommendation for the 21-22 school year. Motion
Madam Chair,
made by Mr. Mitchum.
if you can just update that with the exception of Flowertown Elementary School.
Okay. Then the motion is for the recommendations for the 21-22 school year with the exception of Flowertown Elementary. Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Mitchum made the motion. Mr. Farnsworth seconded the motion. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, I know everybody here knows this, my wife works at Flowertown, so every year I like to pull that one off, just for transparency's sake.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. We appreciate that. Okay, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, now I need a motion for the recommendations for the 21-22 school year for Flowertown Elementary. Mr. Mitchum made that motion, seconded by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion on that? All in favor? 6 and 1 abstention. Okay, new business. We have Ms. Meunier on our 5-year financial projections.
That was my fault, technical difficulties, I'm sorry. Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Pye, We're presenting to you our 5-year budget projections. A little background information for our new board member, and just to refresh y'all's memories from our last normal budget cycle that we went through prior to the crazy COVID budget process from last year. Dorchester County officials requested that our school district prepare a 5-year financial forecast for our future budgets. The county suggested a vendor that they utilize with whom we engaged, and Billy has been working, he is crazy about Excel, so he has been working very diligently with that vendor and to tailor that program to work more closely with school districts, the way that we have to present our information to the State Department of Education and the way that we present information to y'all as the board. So he's been crunching numbers and having fun getting this report ready for y'all. So a financial forecast is an estimate of, we'll just change the company to a school district, our school district's future financial outcomes by examining the historical data. So we had a crazy year this current year, so taking that into consideration and using our past 3 years of information that we uploaded with our vendor, we have prepared this forecast for our future. So a forecast takes assumptions into account. So we, before I show you all the actual numbers, which you guys have seen all of these numbers that we uploaded into your board packet over the weekend. I hope you got to look at all those numbers. I know there are a lot of numbers. So I'll just go over these forecast assumptions that we utilized when preparing this forecast. So for the revenues, the percentage increase of the revenue categories that we utilized, and I'm sorry, this was not the right version, Lee, my fault. Nope, you don't have it. It should be 1% for the increase for assessments. We did not build any millage increases into the forecast for local taxes. This is just in case there are increases in assessments. There's also room for increases for local taxes if more businesses or industry come into our area, but those are not built in. This is just a straight 1% for local taxes. Our state revenue in lieu of taxes, this is our Tier 3 school tax credit, Tier 1, Tier 2, and homestead exemption. We utilize 0.3 to 2%. Our EFA funding went a flat 1%. State aided classrooms and state teacher salary and fringe 1 to 2%. And I wanted to note that these items that are in blue are revenue categories from the state, and those are 73 to 74% of our total revenues are dependent upon the state. The one other area that we'll address on another slide is our other local and indirect costs. We have some ESSER funding built in for about 4 years of this new federal money that we will be getting, but again, it's only for a limited amount of time. So under our local taxes, we are allowed to request a current year increase in our growth in CPI plus 3 years of look back. We won't know our current year increase in growth in CPI until mid-May, which is when the state legislature ends their session. But we do know what our 3 years look back is, which we discussed at our board workshop. It would equate to about 15 mills. Is this something that we would even want to think about, or just we want to ponder that? Do we want to ask for a millage increase at all? I don't know that we're ready really to ask for that at this point. We'll talk about that in just a few more minutes as well. So for our state revenues, just wanted to point out that 75% of our operating revenues come from the state, of which we have no control over. So when the economy is good and when the state has a good year, typically allocations are higher to school districts. So I wanted to also point out that funding for EFA, which is 32% of our state revenues that are received, are based on weighted people units at the state level, as well as the amount of students enrolled in our district, which this year we lost 1,000 students, but we did build those back in for next year. So we did see a decrease of about $3 million in our current year for the loss of those students. So you just never know what's going to happen. So we build our budget the best way that we can and hope that the economy is good at the state level, which this year it turns out that it is much better than what they were anticipating, so that's helpful. Okay, the other local and indirect costs that I wanted to discuss is the ESSER funding. So indirect costs are allowed to be built into the general fund revenues based on an estimated amount that we had for our new allocation of federal funding. We don't know exactly what that is, but the estimated amount that we received, the estimated amount that we believe that we will be getting, we've built in about $3 million over the next 4 years. But again, it's just over a small period of time, over 4 years. We're also awaiting additional guidance from the State Department of Education on that funding source and how it can be utilized. We do know, however, that it cannot be used. It's not intended for normal operating expenditures of the general fund. It's for above and beyond expenditures that we encounter because of COVID-19. For expenditures, much smaller slide here. Our salary, sorry, I skipped over a slide. The percentage increase of expenditure categories, we use 2.5% for salaries. Typically, the state will mandate for a step increase for teachers, which we automatically pay, which equals about 2% for us. In some years, it's higher and some lower, so we built in 2.5% over the next 5 years. Benefits, as the salaries increase, the benefits will increase. So we have that for our different areas of benefits. For professional and technical services, property services, communication and technology, we built in 1% to 2% for these different categories. And those are basically just if we have contracts, just for inflationary factors, those items just go up in cost. And so in order for us to continue at our same level, we would have to increase the expenditure amount. We did put a 2% energy increase in. We will be moving to a new district office, and we're building a new middle school. So we will see some higher energy costs, so we've built in 2% over the next few years. Also wanted to point out that the green areas for expenditures, as we've stated many times, our salaries and benefits are 85% to 87% of our total expenditures. So when we want to reduce expenditures, that's the biggest area, but hardest place to cut. Again, just restating about our salary projections for the average, some years higher, some lower. And we've only increased the non-salary accounts for inflationary factors. So here's our 5-year projection. I know that doesn't look great to y'all. There's a lot of numbers on there. We won't go through all of them, don't worry. Just to point out that the top section shows our revenue categories, and those are in the same category descriptions as we present to you in our board reports. The middle section shows a little bit more additional detail. These are our expenditures by object group. And you should have all of this in your board packets so that when you want to look at some detailed numbers, just let me know what questions you might have on those. And then the bottom section is the roll-up of those objects into the function categories. And again, those are what is presented in your board reports. So it's kind of hard to see what those numbers are. So we broke those out to make them a little bigger. So these next 2 slides you've seen from our budget workshop. We utilized our current budget in the first column, taking into account the unusual COVID activity. We adjusted it to a current budget to help us to calculate for a proposed budget for FY22. So our current budget of $216, our proposed budget of $221, for an increase of revenues of $4.3 million. So those proposed revenues that we used to build this this current year proposed budget were received from the State House Ways and Means Committee proposed budget. The Senate Finance Committee is scheduled to begin their deliberations tomorrow. So for our expenditures, again, we used the current information and built it for the proposed budget, which unfortunately at this time shows our expenditures in excess of revenues of $4.7 million. Good news out of Columbia. They are predicting that they will have an extra $1.7 billion with a B. So in recurring tax dollars, or recurring dollars, I'm sorry. So we hope some of those monies will come to DD2. So at this time, without knowing more solid numbers, it seems too early to adopt a formal budget. We're hoping that that excess of expenditures over revenues will be decreased. So here are new columns. In the revenue section that we were talking about on the other spreadsheet, these are the revenues for your projected years of FY 22-23 going out to FY 26-27. So we use historical data using the assumptions that we discussed earlier, and we have calculated revenues for the next 5 years in the various revenue categories. So again, based on historical data, using assumptions that we have calculated for the expenditures and the rolled up function categories for the expenditures. So unfortunately, as you can see, our projected expenditures in excess of revenues is negative every year. But this forecast is meant to be a tool for the district to look forward to finding additional revenue sources. We can work with our county officials and state officials to come up with some additional funding sources. And while we really hold the line and are very conservative in our expenditures, we need to determine priorities in spending. So those are our 5-year projections of revenues and expenditures. And that is all I had. If you had any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Tina? Mr. Brunswick?
I just had a couple quick questions. Does any of this take into account, I know we've been working a lot with the TIF districts, the tax increment finance districts. Does any of this take that stuff into account?
Since that has not been formally put into place, no, we have not. That could be $500,000 to $1 million perhaps a year.
Okay. Right, so I guess at Oak Brook, that would be a town.
So in Oak Brook, the TIF there mainly focuses on debt service to where we don't get really operating monies from that.
Okay. Yep. And then the other question I had, and again, this might get a little bit into the weeds.
That's okay.
The philo stuff, and because Mr. Ward and Todd are out there, I'm asking about the philo stuff. Is that calculated in here as a fee in lieu of taxes?
Those numbers are included in here. We don't report the net and subtract out what we just report the net of what we receive from those properties.
Okay.
So we do report in our audit report, as you know, one of our footnotes is to we get the information from the county that states how much the tax revenue would have been, and then what we receive based on those fee in lieu.
Right. So the piece there, I think what I'm getting at is these numbers could change a decent amount if there were, for instance, some philos that happen that were significant. We would also see these numbers potentially.
Let's hope in a positive way, right?
I don't know that it would be positive though.
Ms. Wimberly shaking her head no. Yeah.
Okay.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yep.
If they're new areas and we don't have them on the books already, then I guess we wouldn't see that difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I just, and I always, when I get the mic and we can talk about it, the fiscal autonomy conversation, I think of fiscal autonomy when I look at these numbers and the fact that we have to go to county council and beg and plead to help make up those deficits. I just think it's a little bit silly and outdated. We're all elected, we understand numbers. We have a fantastic finance office. So again, the fiscal autonomy takes a lot off of county council's plate. I just don't understand why we continually have this conversation where we're having to go to county council to make this stuff up. So again, I would just, for our legislators, maybe there's one or two of them watching, who knows. We absolutely have to continue the conversation, and for our legislative committee, we've got to have the conversation about fiscal autonomy and keeping that going. So, thank you.
Wonderful.
Ms. Minier, this is really almost, it's good you have this, but things are so unpredictable, and we don't even have a budget for this year. So this isn't something that we could even consider approving, could we, with so much?
I don't know if you would just want to accept it as information. I don't know that there's anything particularly to vote upon.
Yeah, I
I'm just thinking there's so many changes that we don't know, so many variables. Would
And-
it
and-
be?
And this is, again, the budget is a living, breathing document, especially projections that we're assuming different variables with, and that we receive 75% of our revenues from the state. We are really dependent upon the state. And while they're still thick in their budget process, we really don't have good, solid numbers. They don't even complete their budget process. So the Senate floor budget debate is not until the end of the month, and then the appropriation bill returns to the House at the beginning of May, and then it goes to, not even delivered to the governor for their state budget until the middle of May.
And that happens a lot, so.
Absolutely, every year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is something that that we wouldn't vote on. This is just an information thing, because the only thing that we would vote on would be the final budget before we send it to county council, so.
Or the 5-year plan.
Before it goes, that is a part of the budget. The 5-year plan would be a part of the
It was
budget
requested by Dorchester County for us to
because it
submit a
was requested,
5-year
so it would be
projection
part
to
of the
them
budget process, yeah.
as information, and we will continue to update it as we receive more information, and each year it'll be updated.
Thank you.
Ms. Wimberly, did you have something?
I did. So, looking at this, I'm just going back to what Justin was saying, Mr. Farnsworth, about the fiscal autonomy. I don't see how, am I wrong, how would fiscal autonomy solve this issue? Is there something I'm missing? I'm just curious because it feels like it's way more than just having fiscal autonomy. If the money,
We haven't
do we
built in-
have the local money? I mean, I guess, to
Well,
me, it
that-
seems like more of a state issue.
It's probably some of both. I wouldn't consider all local and all state. For the local piece, if we had fiscal autonomy, we would be able to increase millage.
Right.
But
But doing that has its consequences. I'm just saying, would we be able to even increase it enough to make up for this potential long-term? This is a lot of deficit looking over 5 years.
Well,
That's a
as-
lot of money.
Right.
So then I'm just wondering, I guess the reason I'm asking is because I'm trying to figure out where do we go? What can we do? How can we advocate to be helpful? You know, what is the best path that we can take to try to help solve this problem? Because this is a big problem.
Absolutely.
And then also, I was reading, speaking of the surplus that you're talking about at the state, I read too that they were saying they may not even decide how that portion is going to be spent until late summer, or possibly even early fall.
I thought some of that
So-
surplus was going to be part of their non-recurring monies that they were going to decide upon.
I think there's some of both. So I don't know
Right.
if, I'm just wondering, how do we even finalize our budget if we're waiting to hear from the state? And I guess that's a little bit about what Ms. Robinson was saying. Just seems like we're really stuck in between a rock and a hard place, waiting. So to me, I guess my question is, should we be reaching out to our state legislators? Should we be doing more to try to work with them to you know, make gains with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've been talking about that for really strongly for at least the past 3 years to talk to our legislators about fully funding the base student cost. We lose out millions of dollars. That's a state law where they should fund that fully, but they don't. They say they don't have enough money, so they don't fund it. Education is not.
And we have been doing that. We have been advocating for that very thing. And that's why the new, all these new proposals are coming out for the new budget and that kind of thing. That's why that's happening at the state level, because we have been advocating in there, and we do have a few people up there who realize our deficits and realize that they're the only ones that can help us with that. So, but yes, we need to keep doing that, but not only do we need to do that, but everybody out there needs to do that as well, because we're 7 school board members and a superintendent that are constantly singing that same song. If you hear it from other people, then sometimes it kind of, sparks that attention a little better, I think. So we need to continue doing it, but we also need help.
Absolutely. And if I could also add about the fiscal autonomy piece that Mr. Farnsworth was talking about, that would give the board the ability to increase the millage, which, as you said, comes with consequences. There are a lot of districts who, it is just the mindset of their board, if they have to go to the county or if they don't have to go to the county, that they know there are inflationary factors every year. And so they increase it by the growth and the CPI, because that's just what it takes for additional funding so that you can operate your schools at the great level where you are right now. And we haven't been doing that.
Yeah, and I just want to add on real quick, for the fiscal autonomy, I don't want that to sound like the end-all be-all. It's not, but to me, it is certainly a piece of the puzzle, because what I've seen on my time here, what's happened is it very squarely pits us, the school board, versus county council, who again, and for whether you think it's the right reason or not, county council are not education experts. They're not designed to be. We're designed, by design, we are the education experts. So when it comes to our budget and how we spend our money, the revenue sources, the expense, all that sort of stuff, when I think about that, and then we have to go, again, kind of hat in hand and beg and plead to county council, which puts them in a very precarious situation. I don't want to be on county council having to approve an education budget. That's certainly a difficult place to be. So again, I think it kind of pits those two entities together, which we've seen expand over the years. And the other thing that I would point to, and Tina may touch on this as well, we're in a very, Dorchester District 2 is in a very specific budget situation. When you look at other districts around the state and you look at what's happened over time, the way the millage has come down from the state, all the different pieces of the puzzle, not having the industry and commerce specifically here, we are a quote unquote, I hate to even say it, but we're a bedroom community for Charleston. So when you look at those 4% taxes versus 6% taxes, again, Dorchester District 2 is in a very specific bind when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to our budget. And so I think when you start looking at fiscal autonomy, it's just a piece of the puzzle. It helps. Does it answer everything? Probably not. But it's just, again, I think it's one of those tools that we can have in our tool shed that honestly I think we should. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Benier? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all very much.
Do we, I need a motion to accept this as information.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Robinson. I need a second. Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any further discussion?
One other thing. So what's the plan? What are we going to do with this information? I know you said that county council had requested that we do this.
Yes.
Is this something we're sharing with them?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Want
And
to
then
share with
what
you
about
first.
with other state delegation? Are we sharing this with them
We
potentially?
certainly can.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you very
Thank y'all
much,
very
Ms.
much.
Muir. Okay, next on the agenda, and we don't have it listed here, but under public comments, I do have one public comment, and that is Mr. Brad Davis.
Good evening, Board Chair Hughes, board members, Superintendent Pye. I'm Brad Davis. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the Dorchester County Career and Technology Center. And this is your first update since COVID hit. We kind of backed off then. However, the school did not. We continued in-person training the whole time. We had instructors, we had students that elected to be there, some that were there all day, and went very well through all of COVID. We're back up to, not full strength yet, but we're 457 students a day is our current count. And we do have next semester sign-ups for District 2, and the number right now is 968. Now, a reminder that that does not include DD4, that does not include Virtual Academy, it doesn't include Dorchester Academy or any of the private schools, or any other student, teenager that lives in Dorchester County is eligible to attend our Career Academy. Of that 968, Ashley Ridge accounts for 206, Fort Dorchester is 296, and Somerville High School is 466. So you can see that we are kind of balancing out where we are. We'd like a little bit more participation from Ashley Ridge and Fort, but Ashley Ridge also has a very strong agriculture program that kind of doubles what we have. Normally, of that number, about 45% of those students will get enrolled with us due to schedule conflicts or time, sports, things that they can't attend. So we're looking at, right now the demand is 190 students for welding, 157 for health sciences, 148 for cosmetology, and 136 for auto tech. So it's a demand, and we're growing and bursting at the seams, but we'll continue to handle every student you can throw at us, and that's important to us. We did have some wonderful press last month. We had a blessing box that was built for Flowertown Elementary School, and our construction trades class did that. You notice I say construction trades, not carpentry. We're morphing that into not only carpentry, but plumbing and HVAC also. So we're excited. We've got 11 students that the IBEW has split up and sent to electrical contractors who basically bid to get our students. They will start their apprenticeships in May, and as soon as they graduate, go full-time to become electricians. We do need a little help. We need to figure out a program on recruiting for the career school. We'd like to do in-person tours for 8th and 9th graders. So we'll work with you on working on that. Bobby Bear is working on a program and a proposal on that. We think it's important to get the students in person to see what's going on, to get them excited about what's available. So with that, my 30 seconds is left. I just want to say, working with the budget, remember that we are your resource. We are funded by the county. We don't take money from the state that's allocated to you. It's the county does that, and we are a good resource for you. We can take your students for half a day, and we pay for the instructors, for all of the equipment, everything necessary. So please let us be your resource, and we love the partnership, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, board members, also on the agenda, we have the teacher forum, and she will not be here tonight. She's sick, unfortunately. So I need a motion to go into executive session for legal advice regarding the MOU for Dorchester County Library Partnership, personnel matter regarding a hire, and legal advice regarding Dorchester District 2 Foundation.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do you have a second? Second by Ms. Wimberly. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And we will be returning. Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, second. By Mr. Farnsworth, any discussion? All in favor? 6 with one absent. Okay, I need, does anyone have a motion they'd like to make regarding our executive session? Everybody jump in there.
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel recommendation with the organizational chart update as presented by Mr. Pye and his team.
Okay, I have a motion for the organizational chart change as presented by Mr. Pye, by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? 6 with 1 absent. Okay? And I will entertain another motion for,
I will make a motion to accept the MOU as presented for the North Charleston, I forget what the actual sheet, the Dorchester County MOU to go into a library partnership with Dorchester County as presented in executive session.
okay, I have a motion to approve the MOU for the Dorchester County Library partnership with the library, and made by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? Okay, I'd just like to make a comment before we start. I think this is, let me take the mask down just a little bit here. I think this is a great thing. I think this is a long-awaited partnership that I think I think everybody on this board probably had that vision when coming on the board, to try to foster some relationships with other government entities. Now, we have done that with the city of North Charleston with our aquatic center, and now working in a partnership or a co-partnership with the city of Somerville and Dorchester County on McKissick Field, and now again with the county council for the library. So I think this is a great thing, and it's going to benefit, it's a win-win for everybody. I think it's going to benefit the other end of our county down there, Fort Dorchester Inn, and help out a lot of students. So I'm really happy to be entering into this contract. Anybody else have any other comments that they'd like to make, or? Okay. Okay, all in favor? 6 and 0. Oh, 6 and 1 absent, sorry. Okay, and I think that's all the action that we have for, from our executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? 6 and 1